I made the cutest top. It's got little rouleau loops down the front, great shaping with darts, everything that we love, cup sizes, a really special fabric I bought in Italy. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and today I have a Cashmerette Club pattern for you. I've been a member or access at Cashmerette Club for years, literally. I pay for my own membership. There is a sale right now that finishes on the 30th of April for the Cashmerette or Access Club membership. If you want to join up during this sale, you get 25% off. If you use my affiliate link to sign in, you get a pattern hacking course for free. That course has a $65 value from Cashmerette, but when you use my code, you won't have to pay for it. It will be included. If you watched my channel, you know that pattern hacking is something I really like to do. It might not be natural for everyone that wants to try it out and wants to sew. So I think that course, excellent value. When you sign up for the all access membership, you can see all the patterns in there at this point, 52, and it's just going to keep growing. I have been a member myself since 2022. I pay for my own membership. Remember, using my link that you'll find down below in the comment section and in the description box, you get the pattern hacking course included. This month's pattern is either a blouse or a dress. It's called Inman. As soon as I saw this pattern release the first day of April, I knew I was going to sew it up because it's got all the little details that I love in a pattern. It's got a V neckline that a lot of us love. It's got a facing finish. And down the front, you don't have the typical button closure that overlaps. You have button loops. When you have button loops, the facing on the inside finishes it off, but it finishes like this, just against each other, and then the loops close it up. So behind that, you're always going to have a button guard. Super nice technique of the button loops. Don't think it's really hard. It's not that hard actually, and it's such a delicate finish. And if you really dislike buttonholes, you don't need to do buttonholes right here because the loops will be the closure method. For shaping, amazing side bust darts over here, waist darts in the front and the back. Now this can be a top or a dress. The top, actually, the cut line is on the same pattern piece as the dress. So you're not printing different pattern pieces. And according to the suggestions here, for the top version, you don't need to sew those back darts. But I always had the feeling that I was going to end up sewing them. Spoiler alert, I sewed them up. I think the shaping is amazing, and it's still not a fitted blouse. You're still going to have plenty of room to be comfortable in there. You know, the silhouette of the dress goes sort of straightish down. I love that as well, but this time I just sewed the top. For the sleeves, you can do a short or long. Puff sleeve here with a little bit of gathers here. It's not exaggerated. At the bottom, if you're doing the long version, you have a casing with an elastic. If you're doing the short version, it's just a regular sleeve. And you can mash up sleeves from other patterns. I was really tempted, and I actually printed out the sleeve of the Alton blouse, which is also a club pattern. I'll show you the line out here. There's a version with pleats. It's like a lantern sleeve. I thought, how amazing. But once I figured out my fabric layout, I did not have enough fabric. So I'll keep it in the back burner because I really like the Alton blouse as well. Especially love that sleeve. The Alton blouse also has a regular sleeve that you could put onto this bodice. So, you know, if you had that pattern, you could mash up a regular sleeve if puff sleeves weren't your thing. You need a light to medium weight woven for this one. You don't need drape. It's just going to look different whether you use a structured or a drapey fabric, but there's nothing here that would require drape as such. So go ahead and use all your cottons, garment cottons, cotton lawn, poplin, chambray. A really lightweight denim would be okay. 100% linen rayon blend, linen cotton blend, all super nice and easy to work with, easy to press. And if you wanted something that looks just softer, I wouldn't use 100% rayon, the really light weave. I think that would be a little bit too floppy for the facings. I'm not saying you can't do it. I just wouldn't choose it. I would choose a rayon that's a little heavier, like a rayon crepe or a rayon twill. A tencel would be amazing. You could use silk. It would just take a little bit longer, a little harder to manage, but you could do it. You need a bit of interfacing for the facings, and you can use 3/8 buttons or 1/2 inch buttons, depending on whether you're sewing the blouse or the dress, how many you need, anywhere from 7 to 14 to 20 maybe. I tend to use more than what is described. In the instructions also, it tells you how long to cut the little pieces for these rouleau loops according to the button size that you're going to sew. If it's 3/8, it's going to be one size. If it's 1/2 inch buttons, a little bit longer. So I think that is good to have those options there. I chose a Rayon crepe fabric that I bought in Rome. It was a really busy day that day. You know, every minute was in an itinerary. I literally went into a shop and I had 15 minutes to be there, and I found some fabrics really quickly, expensive. So I'm just showing you here while I was sharing this way back when I was in my travels. Really nice brown, really dark background with those little dainty flowers, super pretty. 0 to 32, but there's two separate drafts, from 0 to 16 and from 12 to 32. The draft that has the 12 to 32 has an extra sleeve option, a full bicep sleeve, so you don't have to do a full bicep adjustment if that's something that you want. I think that's super practical. Bust cup sizes C, D, E, F, G, H. So in cup sizes, take into account your high bust and your full bust. I am a C cup, so the CD cup size option has worked for me at Cashmerette since I've been sewing this brand since 2018. I went with the 0 to 16 draft. I chose a size 14 US here. CD cup size, and around your bust you're going to have 1.5 to 2 inches of ease, around 10 inches of ease at the waist, at the hips around 3 to 4, just depends. So I'm really happy with that amount of ease for this type of top. It's nicely shaped, but it's not skin tight. You still have excess fabric here to move around and feel comfortable in. So I'm very happy. Fitting adjustments, I'm going to show you that on the pattern pieces. It's just basically lowering the bust dart, but I'm doing it in a slightly different way. So let's see. The first thing I want to show you is how I raised this V neckline, and it's so easy. All I did was keep that same line and raise it by 1 inch and then taper back in to the same neckline. So if you divide this neckline into half, I went a little bit past the first half right there to get back into the same shape right here. So nothing changes with the shoulder and this area, it's just right there. And because I changed that, I had to change the facing. So they are both exactly the same, they're going to fit perfectly, and that raises my neckline a little bit. Now that changes my button loop markings, so the ones on the pattern don't count at all. What's important is that 1/2 inch below that is where the first loop goes, so I marked it there. And then you go straight down. Now the other thing I did was measure the bust height here. This dart right here, I measured that and I determined that it was 3¼ inches too high for me. My bust height is a little lower, I'm a little taller, I just have a longer area right here. Because I knew I wanted to lower my bust height. And then there's also this waist dart right here. So the widest part of this waist dart is right there. This should match the waist. I was short there too, so I fixed it with one adjustment. Both adding the length of the bodice, I need a longer bodice in essence, and I need a lower dart, so I just added those 3/4 inch above the bust dart, and that one fix all the way across lowers the bust dart and brings this wider part of the dart to where it needs to be. So because I did that to the front, I did it also to the back. Around the same area, I just went ahead and added that. Now in this area, my waist dart was okay, so I just brought my waist dart a little to match where my waist dart is right here. So I just drew the dart again. This was the original widest part of the dart, and now this is the widest part of the dart. My waist height at the back is a little higher. This is just something that you learn with your body, with making lots of clothes. So this would have been my new dart. I just drew it on again. It's the same dart, it's just brought up by 1 inch a little bit there. So that was it for that. This is the cut line for the top. I measured 2 inches further down and I cut it there because I wanted my top a little bit longer. And to match everything up, you have to check the length of the facing that matches, and the button guard, or how they call it here, the button placket facing, so that everything matches. You see that I just don't lower the bust dart like a typical cutting out the rectangle and lowering it. If I assess that I need length everywhere else, I wanted to make that bodice a little bit longer as well, so that the waist darts would fit me at my waist height, which my bodice length is a little bit longer compared to the block Cashmerette. So I'm always checking vertical measurements. It's super important, not just circumferences, to make sure that everything fits really well. So adding above that dart those 3/4 of an inch, brings down the dart, also adds that length above the waist that I needed, both in the front and the back. For the back, I just needed to move that waist dart a little bit higher after adding that length to compensate, and it's all good, and I was happy to cut into my fabric. For sewing, I found it very fun, 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to focus in more detail with the neckline finish and the rouleau loops because I think that's interesting. You will still see a lot of the sewing, but the detail will be in the rouleau loops and the facings. These are the pattern pieces for my version of the Inman blouse from Cashmerette Club. I'm doing the blouse, you can also do a dress. The only difference is the length. It's all in the same pattern piece. So there's just a cut line for the top. I actually cut it 2 inches longer than the cut length for the top just because I want mine a little bit longer. I'm a little bit taller. This is the front. There's a side bust dart there and a waist dart. That's the back, it's on the fold. For the dress, you would have back darts as well, but I drew them on and I want to see if I like that on the top as well. I'm all for more shaping, so that's something optional that I might do or I might not do. Facing finish, front, the back. This is the button guard, what goes behind when these meet up at the center, because the finish here doesn't overlap. It's with button loops and they're made with this long piece that's cut on the bias. I cut mine a little bit longer because I think I want more loops, shorter distance between them. So it's supposed to be 7 for the top. I anticipate I'll be using at least 9. I have a short sleeve. It's a puff sleeve. It's going to be gathered in this section here. You can also make it longer with an elastic casing at the bottom. I'm going to complete the basics that you do with any woven projects. They stitch these necklines right here, the front and the back. I always do it from the shoulder into the center and then from the shoulder into the center, flipping it so it's symmetrical. I'm going to get all these darts sewn. I like to start sewing darts from the tip, bust darts, just because I can regulate where the needle goes in. I do it by hand cranking right on the edge. I can regulate the speed, do a shorter stitch length in the beginning, and it just gives you such a neater point than starting from the wide part and then going to the narrow bit. No back tucking here on the tip. It's right on the edge. You know, when you're going full speed, you're trying to slow down to get to that section, and then it can become a little bit harder to do that, to slow down and get right to the edge. That's why I like it like this. And then on this side, you can't even tell. It's so neat. The instructions say to press the dart up and then to trim this away. I prefer to press it down. If you press it down, you don't need to trim anything. It's been true to be like that. So it's all personal preference. Cashmerette thinks that this looks nicer if you press it up. I prefer to press it down. I'll repeat with the other bust dart, and then there's these waist darts on the front that I'm going to sew in the exact same way. The tip is here, the tip is there. I'm not going to back tuck at any, and I'm just going to be really careful. As I said, the top isn't supposed to have back waist darts, but I might actually sew it on mine because I like shaping. So I think you can have your preference there. But I am going to try it on first with those darts basted. So these are the only ones I'm sewing for now. And I'm also going to assemble this facing. The facing is really easy. All you need to do is extend this like that and put these two on top so that this area looks like a V. Those will be the shoulders for the facing. I'm going to serge all the edge right here around the external edge of the facing, and then we'll be ready to start putting the neckline together. What I did so I could try on my back darts was just pin the side seams, 1/2 inch seam allowance approximately, and then I'd pin my darts, and because I was so happy, I just went ahead and sewed them. So I'm going to keep these. I think it looks really nice with the back darts. They don't just have to be for the dress option. They can also be for the top, and there's still a very nice amount of ease at the waist and everything. So I'm going to take these pins off because it's going to be easier to do the loops and the facing with the side seams undone. This comes way later. So this was just so I could have a general feel of the ease. The long piece for the rouleau loops, I folded it lengthwise, right sides together, put lots of pins. This is a piece that's cut on the bias, and we're going to sew it with a 1/4" seam allowance. I'm very grateful for the seam allowance because I've sewn other Rouleau loops where they just keep the regular seam allowance of the pattern and then it's harder and you have to trim off a whole bunch. So I like this smaller seam allowance. It's much more manageable. I'm going to trim the seam allowance down to half, so it's going to be only 1/8 right here, just to have less bulk inside the Rouleau loop. I'm going to use a biggish needle with a large opening right there and double thread. I'm going to knot it there. And right here, I'm going to give it a few stitches just to hold it in place here at the end. And then with this side, not the pointy side, with the back side of the needle, I'm going to start threading it through. And because it's a needle, of course, it's going to fit within this tiny little space. Okay, I've come out the other side. And now here, with my seam ripper, I'm going to try to push some of this fabric inside, like this, and to sort of help it along a little bit. It's hard to get it to flip in the first section. I finally got it to go through about that much, and now it feels much smoother. So the first little bit can be a little bit slower. It is a pretty tight squeeze here. These loops are going to be super small, very delicate. And it's just about going slowly. You don't want it to get stuck in there. So I'm not forcing it. I'm that much through. So a buttonhole's easier, maybe. But are they as pretty as this? Absolutely not. They're just buttonholes. Check it out. It finally came out. It's like the birth of the Rouleau loop here. Look how small it is. I'm going to figure out what buttons I'm going to use so I can know what length to cut them, because if it's 3/8 buttons, you cut them with 2 inches. If it's 1/2 inch buttons, you cut them with 2 1/4 inches. So I'm going to find my buttons first so that I'm sure. I didn't have a ton of options, but I found these buttons that are 1/2 inch right there. So I'm going to cut these at 2 1/4. And I erased my neckline, so that essentially just erases the references that were original to the pattern. So I'm fine with that. I just marked where the first one's going to be. It's 1/2 inch down because there's going to be a facing here. And then if you look at here where the dark tip is, if you go straight across, I have one right there, sort of at the same level. So that's going to be the one at my bust height. I measured this on my pattern and marked it, so I'm pretty confident that I'm not going to have any gaping. So mine are 6 centimeters apart, which is 2 3/8, and I have 7. So all you need to do is fold these like that. The raw edges go against the raw edge of the fabric, right on the marks right there. The mark is going to be right in the middle. And that's where I'm going to hand baste them all in place. It's going to be a little bit tedious. I prefer to hand baste than to just baste by machine because I want this to be right there. The only way I can control these to be right together is with hand basting, so it turns out neat. So that'll take a while, but then I can forget they're there and then we can just put the facing on top. Okay, there they are, all hand basted on. You can see all the red thread. It's going to be easy for me to see and remove later, but they're all really nice and fixed in place. And especially at the 1/2 inch where I'm going to sew them, I've basted that together there so it doesn't separate. That's important for me. Now this is the button guard that's going to be on the other side, and all you have to do is fold it lengthwise and sew the short ends. I've sewn them 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm going to trim that off and then we just flip it, and this is what we basted onto the other side that didn't have the loops. I'm going to give it a nice press so that it's super neat and then hand baste this on the other side. Okay, there's the other side. Here we have it. That's the guard. Raw edge matches the raw edge of the blouse, and we leave it 1/2 inch down the same. You need space for the facing. At the bottom, it's not going to go all the way down. We have a 1 inch hem, and this is going to finish a little bit shorter. There's a mark on the blouse to reference that. On the left wearer side, you're going to have this button guard. On the right wearer side, you're going to have the loops. And now it's just about placing the facing on top and finishing the facing like any regular facing. It's just that you're going to have things in between. You're going to be sandwiching loops and button guards in between. Okay, here we have everything extended. I interfaced with white just so that it would be easier to see. Shoulder seams of the facing match the shoulder seams of the blouse. Everything's on. It matches beautifully. The stay stitching worked very nicely, and I've got it all the way down to here. Because I adjusted the length of my blouse, I also adjusted the length of the facing, so they should be at the same level right here. In the instructions, you have a 1-inch hem allowance, so you would sew across here with 1 inch seam allowance, but I'm gonna do mine smaller with 1/2 inch because I want a smaller hem, because I want a longer blouse. That is just the reason for it. So 1/2 inch here, and then all the way around back to the bottom. I have marked a little dot where my pivot point is going to be right here and right here, so it's easy, so I don't just guess while I'm sewing. And that's it. It's just a very long stitch going all the way around, being careful with the references, being careful around the curves. I like the hand basting, as you know. I think it's one of the reasons I'm pretty happy with how my facings turn out all the time. It's not a waste of time, or maybe you think it is. I don't think it is. And yeah, just get it sewn. And even before doing this, I already had hemmed the bottoms because I'm just going to have a single fold for my hem allowance. After that, of course, this seam allowance is too big to leave in there, so we're going to trim it down. We're going to flip the bottoms as well. Now I'm doing some snips around the V neckline and more in the back section because it's more curved. Now we need to understitch. So I've got the facing here on my right hand. I'm going to push the seam allowance underneath the facing and sew right there on the edge. I'm going to do the straight section, most of it. I'm not going to go around this area. And then I'm going to start again on the V neckline, a little past the point right there. Very, very long seam, but it's important to keep the facing on the inside and the garment looking super neat. Before understitching this other side where the loops come out of, I'm going to try to remove as much of the red basting stitch as I can so it doesn't get caught in there. And then I'm going to understitch this the same way. I went to the iron and pressed everything neatly. While I was there, I put pins and hand basted only the back part of the facing down because I want to top stitch this. In the tutorial, what you need to do is just stitch in the ditch at the shoulders area. That's what holds the facing down for the front and the back. But I know the back one flapping about does bother me. So for most garments that have a back facing, I will top stitch that down. It's pretty discreet. The hair's there. No one's going to know. I'm going to leave the front one just hanging open though. I feel like at this point I'm done. I had actually assembled the sleeve right at the beginning just because they were in my hands and I thought, why not? So I sewed that seam. I even sewed my hem. I just need to do the gathering stitches on the top so that we have the gathering feature on the sleeve cap there, but that will be super easy. I have pinned my side seams now. Neckline is done. I can just sew them. I have even done a memory crease for my hem that I can just whip up afterwards, and that'll be it. And then sewing a bunch of buttons. But at this point, I feel like I'm basically done. I'm so excited to share the final result. It's so pretty, and the fit is amazing. Yeah, the details are just so nice, and the fabric is so soft. So it's a really delicate print. I love that print, that it's not huge and it's not everywhere. You know, there's a lot of dark brown here and I like that color. I chose these buttons that you would see. So I wanted that to be something visible. I also like vertical details on things. The button loops turned out very, very pretty. You know, when you have this system, you have your loops and they sort of just meet there and the button guide is behind it, so there's no overlap. So it's a little bit different to other types of button closures. And the button loops, even though at the first point it was a little bit difficult to get it through, once you got going, it went through and they are super, super nice. I have the 7 buttons, I have my sleeves, there's a little bit of a gather detail right there, but it's not excessive. I have my top stitched back facing right there. It ends at the shoulder seam, and in the front, the facing just lies on its own. It's weighty, it's wide, so I'm not concerned that that's going to be uncomfortable. All the darts are correctly placed after my small fitting adjustments. I'm super happy to have sewn the back darts that were supposedly just for the dress, but I like it on the top as well. I hack on back darts to so many of my make. Why not actually sew them when they are there? It just makes total sense to me. But if you wanted a more looser, relaxed look, then you might probably want to leave them out. I'm going to show you this style 2 ways. I wanted to talk about this, nothing to do with sewing actually, just to do with styling. When you have a solid background of any color, you know, it's a good idea to pair your bottoms to the solid color right here. You will never miss, you will never be wrong. The problem is when you start picking colors that are very small, a tiny detail, and then matching that up to your bottoms, thinking it's going to bring out the color in the print. When the color in the print is already minimal, it's not going to bring out the color, and from far away, it's just going to look very strange. So imagine I pick this violet and just put on a violet skirt. It would not look good, believe me. Same as this light blue. Maybe the beige would be okay. I think beige here would be perfect. It's a neutral that goes perfect with brown. So how I'm cheating the blue thing here is by using denim. Denim is blue in different shades, but denim, just because of the type of fabric it is, it's always going to look good. So you're going to see denim and a solid. I just wanted to point that out in case you're wondering how to match up your colors. Not that I'm an expert, but I just think it's common sense. Check out my Inman blouse, dressed casually with my denim skirt because it goes with everything. I love the A-line silhouette of the skirt with the blouse. The length of the blouse is perfect. Mine is 2 inches longer, and I've got a size 14 with a CD cup size option. This is a Rayon crepe I bought in Italy. It's so beautiful and so soft. I love the print and I love the fit. There is a dress option here, and for the dress option you had those back waist darts, but I sewed them with this top as well. I think it was a great choice. This is so comfortable. The first button and loop start right at the V there. The facing is wide, it goes inside around that width. It's very safe, it's not top stitched down. Sleeve and shoulder fit, really comfortable. A little bit of a puff detail there, but not too much, so I love that. You can also sew a long sleeve with a casing right there, but I didn't choose that option. Let me unbutton that so you can see the loop. Check out the little dainty loop facing in there. Button guard covers all of that area, and then they just sit next to each other right there. And the loop and the button hold it in place. My bust height right here, I have a button exactly there. They are 6 centimeters apart, 2 3/8, and there's no gaping ever. Bust dart lowered by 3/4 of an inch by adding length all the way around, and the waist darts here are really nice, very comfortable at the back as well. I still have plenty of these. I love this V neckline. I'm very happy I raised it by 1 inch. Doesn't show anything, I can live my life. So I think it's a good idea to raise necklines sometimes if that's an issue for you. Love the sleeve little detail there, super cute. And as I mentioned, my back facing is top stitched down so it doesn't move around. I love this paired with the denim. It's a really casual, sporty look. As I mentioned, the denim is blue. Typical blue denim. It goes perfectly with anything. And there is a little bit of blue in the print, so that's how I'm tricking it. I definitely would not add the blue in another type of fabric. I think that would look strange. Let's dress her up a little bit. Brown skirt, simple, classic. It's the way that you'll never fail. You choose the background color, match it up at the bottom. I've got some really nice heels that I bought in the UK. This fabric, gorgeous, from Rome. So pretty. This is such a classic look. I feel amazing in it. It's me all over it, and I'm so happy. I could just add on a really nice handbag here and head off to church and be super comfortable. Now, don't worry too much about matching up the exact tones of brown. As long as it's brown, I think it's okay. I love the subtle shaping with all the dots. It's not boxy, it's not tight, it's not super loose. It's just perfection. This pattern is lovely, same as all the other club patterns I've been collecting. I'm going to start sewing them more now that I'm back home. And I've got a list of some that I want to sew up. I became an affiliate with Cashmerette only recently at the end of November, so it's a new thing to me. Remember, if you use my affiliate link, you get a free pattern hacking course. 25% off sale is a good time to become a member. I'll leave all the information in the comment section and the description box, and the sale ends on the 30th of April, so in a few more days. I love this, and I think in the future this is a hack I want to add to different types of blouses. I know exactly how to convert a typical button down into a button loop with a button guard. I have already been thinking about it, and I think it's a really nice hack that you could add on if it's something that you like. So I think that's future content I'm really excited about, because limitless sewing, right? See you soon. Bye.